Rogue Knight Side Stories by Illuviar. First, CT, Prologue and Chapter 1, Part 1. Disclaimer: I do not own Gundam Seed or Star Wars. They belong to their respective copyright owners. This story is not created with commercial aim. I make no money from it. Conspiracy Theory. Prologue. A new assignment. CT equals CIS frigate, beyond the veil, en route to Geonosis, hyperspace. What is thy bidding, my master? A kneeling figure in black and dark blue robes asked. You are to continue your investigation while I deal with the council. I want everyone connected with this mess found and dealt with. As you command. You need to act fast, Tan. The Republic will be hitting Geonosis again within the week. We'll be in and out before their fleet arrives. You'd better be. Your new task takes utmost priority. Don't fail me in this, my apprentice. I haven't failed you yet, my master. I have no intention to start now, master. You better not. With those words, Dooku cut off the connection, and his holographic image dissipated. The Chiss woman stood up and took a moment to straighten up her robes, a frown appearing on her face. By all rights, Severance should have solved the puzzle she had been tangling with weeks ago. Instead, her investigation had reached a dead end at the last stretch. Well, at least now she had a new lead, one that she needed to chase down before the Republic forces descended on Geonosis and turned the system in a battlefield. Tan left the communication center and headed to the armory, where the rest of her team were preparing. Few minutes later, Severance entered a rather narrow but long compartment, lined up with lockers and rafters, filled to the brim with various weapons and explosives. Inside, 4 people and 6 droids were busy going over their preferred equipment. The first being she actually saw was Rowar, a giant Wookiee towering over everyone else. His barrel-like chest was covered, but 2 bandoliers holding ammo clips and grenades, with even more hanging on a large belt around his waist. The Wookiee looked her way and roared a greeting before returning his attention to the mostly disassembled bowcaster he was working on. Next to him, a pair of Trandosian twins were working on their heavy armors. The large lizards gave her a brief nod before continuing with their ministrations. Behind them, the only human in her crew, a Mandalorian bounty hunter calling himself Forge, was working on something that undoubtedly was going to go bang sooner than later. Just as expected of her demolitions expert, she paid scarcely any attention to the cannon fodder, the 6 commando droids which were maintaining their blasters and vibroblades. Our mission is a go, Severance declared. It's about time. Forge grunted. Don't worry, it's likely you'll be free to blow up something. The corners of her lips turned up in a ghost of a smile. She did appreciate professionally done job, and Forge usually not only excelled in his line of work, but more often than not turned it into an art form. Roar. Yes, we are on a time limit again. The Republic First Assault Fleet is moving on Geonosis as we speak. We need to get out before they arrive. While Command has extensively planned for this battle, they did so for Ryloth too. We all know how that turned out. Jolak, one of the Trandosians, grunted. Yep, the Republic stopped fucking around. All thanks to the idiots we are after, they made winning this war much harder. Tan nodded. It wasn't like Severance had anything against the challenge. However, she was aware of the strategic situation. Ultimately, the Republic had much more resources and manpower, which once brought to bear would make winning the conflict very hard. At best. However, it would take them time to go on war footing, even longer to start training personnel in sufficient numbers to make a difference. Ideally, the war would be won before that time. Ryloth was a bait to bleed the Republic Navy and ground forces. Unfortunately, it didn't work that way. While the enemy suffered significant losses, they were more than made up by the CIS ships they destroyed. Not to mention that after the stunt their commander pulled out, capturing the capital within hours with the CIS leader currently in place there, it derailed the plan for attrition warfare all over the planet. Hopefully, the fleet and ground forces on Geonosis would do better, though Tan had no intention of being there to witness it firsthand. So you ready to give us the details? We are going to catch and interrogate one of the locals' queens. My master got information that one of them has been in contact with our quarry. Sweet, then we blow up the place to cover our tracks, Forge asked. Tan answered him with an amused smile. Shakarna CT equals. Chapter 1, Investigations. Part 1, Starport, Plogal City, Geonosis. Forge and Rawar fall in. We are going to meet our contact, Severance ordered. You two, she nodded at the twins, disembark the transports and make sure that they are ready to go. Behind her, the twins headed back to the large transport shuttle which they used to reach the surface. They would have to deal with the squad of droids and the modified APC inside. Tan looked around the artificial cavern that housed their ride. It was rather large, housing multiple landing pads for various transports which were on the smaller side. The only entrance leading towards the mostly underground city where their contact waited was protected by thick armored doors. There was a platoon of SB droids augmented by 4 droideckers, which were deployed with their shields raised. There were a half-dozen huge locals in what appeared to be heavy exoskeletons over there too. Whoever was in charge of the spaceport apparently took security rather seriously. She provisionally approved, as long as it didn't interfere with her mission, that is. So we are cantina crawling. Tan just knew that Forge was grinning under his distinctive helmet. In a matter of speaking, it must be some kind of cosmic rule, meeting contacts in cantinas. The Force Adept grumbled. With her luck, their destination would be on the seedier side. Why, she remembered that time on Nar Shaddaa. She shook her head in a futile attempt to chase that thought. Rug-row, Rowar asked. Absolutely not. I'm not paying your bail if you decide to alleviate your boredom again. Tan glared at the heavily armed walking rug to her left. The Wookiee whined. It was absolutely your fault. She got you there, pal. At least it was fun times, Forge mused. And you? Severance redirected her glare at the armored figure. You were supposed to keep them out of trouble. Hey, at the end of the day, the team was mission green. All but yourself were in prison. Well, that establishment having a platoon of destroyer droid on speed dial was a surprise. At least we kept it civil. Mostly, I had to explain to my master why my people were creating a diplomatic incident on a CIS core world. That wasn't fun at all. Because we're the best, Forge tried and Rowar roared in support. Why do I ever bother? Tan groaned. She was supposed to be a Sith, damn it. This was so not how she had imagined her carrier as one. Identification, purpose of visit. The only normal looking of the locals spoke in a barely understandable basic. Classified, Tan, Severance, CIS High Command. The Sith provided an identification. Those are Forge and Rowar, my subordinates. Our presence should be cleared. She waited for the scans to commence. The ID is valid, the local announced after a few moments. We've received word of your presence, my lady. The official turned his head towards the guards and spoke in his clicking language. The droids obeyed the instructions and moved aside, clearing a path to the barely opened massive doors behind. So for once, High Command didn't forget to announce our arrival ahead of time. Forge chuckled. That was one-time accident? Severance tried. That particular mess made the CIS look rather bad, though in their defense it happened just after the war started ahead of schedule, and there was a lot of confusion. Roar! The Wookiee added his 2 credits. I know we had to shoot our way out. I was there, Tan grumbled. Huh. Good times. Where is that cantina anyway? Forge asked. It should be near the spaceport, about 5 minutes walking distance. Soon they emerged from the large tunnel connecting the landing pads with the cities proper. Despite being mostly under a mountain, the place was rather well lit. From their position in a small plaza, they could see a lot of the tall spires preferred by the locals, which allowed them to fly around and within them. There were some more conventionally built buildings as well, which were contrasting with the local construction, which appeared to be made of rusty red rock. Is that the place? Forge asked, pointing down the largest avenue leading deeper in the city. A few blocks that way was a 3-story building lit up by holographic advertisements. They were announcing that inside you can find all vices known to man and then some. There was a row of people waiting entrance, as well as a bunch of bulky armored figures lounging in front of the doors. Rather heavy outfits for regular bouncers, the Mandalorian added after studying them for a moment. No doubt the gadgets built into his helmet helped him see more than met the eye. Rowar roared happily. I already hate this mission. Severance muttered. Was it too much to ask for a calm, ordinary assignment once in a while? After the last major excitement she was part of, Tan had to fake her own death by using a half-trained clone as a substitute in order to evade a pair of pissed of Jedi. Then she was straddled with the job of chasing down that conspiracy within the CIS ranks, and her life had become really interesting as of late. Unfortunately, not in a way she appreciated. There were too much close calls for even a Sith to enjoy the mayhem. There goes nothing. You're both loaded for ready for action, right? We haven't spent the last night getting plastered, so yeah. Forge nodded. Rowar gave her an indignant grunt. Don't give me that. Tan narrowed her eyes at the Wookiee. I know you started that drinking contest. Rowar did his best to look innocent. Considering that he was over 2 meters tall, more than a meter wide in the shoulders, and wearing enough arms and armor to start and win a small war, that didn't go over too well. You participated as well and drank us all under the table, Forge quipped. So not helpful. Besides, I was up and ready for the mission in the morning. You cheated, the Mandalorian grumbled. Force criffing tricks. Naturally, Severance smirked. Get your game faces up. We have a job to do. Second, Blackguard's prologue. Disclaimer: I do not own Gundam Seed or Star Wars. They belong to their respective copyright owners. This story is not created with commercial aim. I make no money from it. Blackguards. Prologue. RK equals Black Sun Warehouse, lower levels, Coruscant. 12 cloaked men were moving like ghosts through the crowded streets under Coruscant's space scrappers. They were either alone or in pairs, just ordinary humanoids scrapping a living in the underworld of the galactic capital. While a particularly keen observer might have noticed that they appeared particularly well-fed and bulky under their cloaks, that wasn't something particularly interesting. There were thousands of different species living in Coruscant's underbelly. Who knew what kind of alien hid under those cloaks? A local pickpocket, a Rhodian boy no older than 10, noticed one of those strangers and noted that he had a nice pair of boots, but considering he wasn't taking them from that big fella without a fight, he shrugged and continued searching for easier mark. He wasn't particularly curious to see what was under that hood, especially if it was pissed off at him. Besides, the lower levels weren't a place that encouraged curiosity. Here, such a trait was hazardous for one's health. Just ask Omba. Oh right, you can't. Those Trandoshans didn't appreciate meddlers, at least they didn't eat him. On the bright side, the pickpocket had nicked his rather nice boots after those reptiles were done with him, so it wasn't a total loss in his books. The boy's train of thought was derailed when he noticed more people in similar cloaks. They were just there, appearing out of the crowd, going straight at the nearby Black Sun safe house. The pair of guards, a Trandosian and Gamorrean, noticed that too and suddenly looked alert. The boy's eyes widened. Criff, not another gang war. He would have to find a safer ground again. Suddenly 2 more figures appeared like ghosts. They simply phased into view behind the guards, who had their attention at the approaching strangers. Those 2 were clad in Mandalorian-style armor and had bloody vibroblades in their hands. The Black Sun enforcers crumbled to the ground in boneless heaps while their killers were busy attaching small objects on the door and then ducked away. The pickpocket decided that discretion was the better part of valor and ran away, thunder echoing behind him. Yeah, he needed a new place to ply his trade. RK equals. The warehouse's front door was blown off its hinges seconds before shaped charges breached 2 of its walls. Before anyone inside knew what was happening, concussion grenades flew inside and detonated, stunning the motley assortment of thugs and drug runners inhabiting it. Figures clad in Mandalorian armor charged in, gunning down everyone in sight. It was all over in seconds. Make sure that there are no survivors. Grab any credits you find and torch the place. We are moving out in 2, ordered the apparent leader of the assault team. Similar strikes were happening on various placed in the Undercity, exclusively targeting low-level Black Sun operations. The assailants struck and disappeared like ghosts, accidentally leaving evidence that would point at 2 of the bigger gangs on Coruscant. RK equals. Freighter Diamond Dog. Low orbit over Coruscant. We made our point. Trek smiled. You think? The ONI operative sitting next to him smirked. They will be too busy killing each other to feed the SEP's information. While as far as anyone knows, that spy ring remain uncompromised. Good, you are learning. Is there anything else I can do for our finest today? The operative asked. We need dependable operators who can blend in a crowd without armor, the clone said. We aren't exactly inconspicuous. Well, that's quite obvious. I can put out some feelers and see what I can do. Your best bet is to try with some retired agents from our organization. We'll appreciate that. See you around. The agent finished his drink and headed for the hangar where his shuttle was docked. When he was gone and security scanned the ship for bugs, you couldn't be too careful with those spook types. Trek met with his second-in-command. How's the recruiting going? Better than expected. There are many angry people who had lost everything thanks to the separatists. A lot of them relish the chance to strike back and will do anything we ask of them. Of course, much less of them have the making of decent operatives. Trek must. We will use them anyway. Not every mission will require our special skills. There is that. How is our funding? The boss managed to funnel a couple of thousand large this morning. His new associates we are providing muscle for are coming through too, netting us about $1 million per week after we crack down on their competition. Distasteful, but necessary, at least in the short term. The contingency plans are in place, right? We can shut them down permanently once they outlive their usefulness. That's good, just don't get cocky. Dully noted, sir. What's the status on fleet expansion? We've acquired a couple of old cruisers that were converted into freighters. It will be relatively simple to make decent light warships of them, but they won't be able to take on anything modern. That's fine. They aren't meant to face the CIS anyway. How is the search for good base locations? We've scouted only a quarter of the list the General gave us. Most are write-off, though we found one Imperial installation that is largely intact. The survey team reported that the codes worked like a charm, and they are busy inventorying its contents. Let me know when they are done. What's next on today's agenda? Now that the paperwork for making us a legal PMC are through, we have a few job opportunities to review. A couple of them could net us useful contacts.